But we've also seen other countries in Eastern Europe, Ukraine, where we've seen hacking and dumping cases where Russian intelligence agencies like the GRU, the military intelligence, or the SVR, Russian foreign intelligence, have identified what they consider to be vulnerable Ukrainian officials and hacked into their computers and publicly highlighted or in some cases fabricated information that's compromising about them. It may be extramarital affairs, potential involvement in corruption. And in some cases, there's been true information. In some cases, we've seen just deliberate disinformation, so false information, trying to delegitimize a government in Ukraine that the Russians feel is far too sympathetic to Western Europe and the United States, and one that is not sympathetic enough to Moscow itself. I think what's important to understand is the Russian government believed that the Ukrainian decision, it was the population part of the color revolutions in Ukraine that led in 2013, 2014, and 2015 to a major shift away from Moscow and towards the European Union and even NATO and certainly the US. So Ukraine's shift, the Russians argue, was a heavy intelligence information, they argue even a disinformation campaign. So the objective in using disinformation against a country like Ukraine is to undermine the legitimacy of the Ukrainian government, undermine the support for it by its own population, to weaken it in a way that I think over time, I think ideally the Russians would like to see Ukraine become pro-Russian. That would almost certainly mean a change of government in Ukraine. So the goal, and this is the same thing with the Baltic states as well. I think it's to increase the delegitimacy or to delegitimize Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia and those governments, and potentially over time, much as the Russians did with Crimea, to bring them back into their orbit. Part of that is use of disinformation is to weaken the legitimacy, weaken popular support for those governments. And I think, the idea here is to attempt to use democracy, which the Russians consider weak, a weak type of political system, use an open and democratic system and attempt to take advantage of some of its flaws.